Hi, I'm Paul Seal from codeshare.co.uk. Welcome to episode 13 in this series where I'll show you how to build a website with Umbraco V8. In this episode, what we're going to do is have a look at how we can be notified when errors are occurring on our site. So we saw previously that you can log errors in the error log, but that doesn't necessarily notify you of it. You can sign up to some services which can send you messages and things like that. But what we're going to do is send ourselves a message on Slack, which has the added benefit of it. If you've got it on your mobile, you get a notification on your phone as well. So let's say, for instance, there's an error on your site, someone's getting a 500 page or something like that. It's an unhandled error. You want to know about this. You don't just want to leave people hitting error pages, things like that, errors occurring on your site. So let's have a look and see how we can get this done. So first thing we want to do then is we want to install this package, and I actually created this package. So it's a NuGet package. It's available on NuGet as Slackbot messages. And if you go to the GitHub page for it, you've got a whole README about how you use it, different examples of how to use it as well. So that's what we want to use. We're going to use Slackbot messages. So as usual, when I install a package, what I like to do is do it down here in the package manager console, but you can look for it in tools, NuGet package manager, manage packages. But let's just install it. So it's install -package Slackbot messages. While that installs, I've just installed it to the web project. I didn't want to do that. I want to actually install it to the library project. I might just stop that. Yeah, I'm going to choose the core library, and then I'm going to do it again because I don't need to run it from the web project at all. I can have the code in the core project instead. So yeah, while that does that. So the idea of this is it's a C# wrapper around an API that lets you send messages via Slack. What you need to do to get it working is you need to sign up for so you need to have access to a Slack channel, and you need to be able to set up an incoming webhook on that Slack channel. So the link in the GitHub README will take you to this. So you'll be signed into a Slack channel, and then you need to choose. So let's just say I want to post something to the general channel. Click Add Incoming Webhooks Integration, and there's my URL. So I need to use that later. So has this been installed? It has. You get a README to say how to use it with a basic message that you can send. So let's go into what we need to do first of all before we can use this. In the web config, we just want to do add key equals, and then we'll do Slackbot messages webhook URL or something like that. You could just put Slack URL, and then value equals, and then just paste in that one that you created. Okay, so that's done that. I'm just having a look at version control because I started to install that package. I think what it's tried to do is install it for me in my web project as well. Yeah, it did. It tried to do it. It's no big deal if it has, but really I just wanted it in the core project. So we've got that set up. We've got that added in there, the Slackbot messages webhook URL. And then, so what is the point of this episode? What are we actually going to do with it? Well, I was thinking about this. Sometimes you might find that your website, the app pull restarts or something like that, or maybe a site goes down, you don't know why, and you didn't know that it did, and you only find out when people complain about things. And it'd be interesting to find out how many times your website keeps starting up. So that's one of the things that we're going to do, is we're going to create a composer. So we talked about composing and things like that before, and it's going to be that one. We're going to create this. So it's going to be called an application composer. So let's go into our web project, right click on composing, do add, and then do class and call it applicationcomposer.cs. And in this, we're going to call it, so it's going to be public class, and we're going to add the component. It's going to be a component composer. So this is the one where we easily add the component underneath. Let's just create the component first. So we'll do public class application component component in Umbraco core.composing. Okay, so we can just, so we have a component, and then what we want to do is we want to put a public void initialize in it, and we want to do and a public void terminate. So now that's satisfied this interface. It was showing as red before, but now it's not, because we've implemented the two, even though those voids don't do anything yet. And then with this application composer, what we can do is we can get it to inherit from component composer, and then we can tell it to use the application component and also inherit from our user composer. So this is just a quick way of basically adding this application component to the composition, which is the Umbraco application. So we're basically saying add this. Now with this, what this is going to do is this initialize method is going to run when the application starts up. So I thought it'd be a good idea to send this Slack message there. So if we have a look at the examples here, what we can do is we can just copy the code in the example. So we can copy it from there, or we can copy it from the GitHub page. So if we go to the project site in here, we can copy it from one of these as well if we want to. But let's just copy that and paste it in here. And then it's going to say, I don't recognize this. So import Slackbot messages SPM client. And then the webhook URL, what we want to do is web configuration manager .app settings, and then put in the name from the web config. Now, you probably shouldn't be putting secrets and things in your web config, but as this is just a Slack webhook URL, I'm okay with doing that at the moment, but you'll have ways to manage your secrets yourself. And then so it's using Slackbot messages, and we also need to use Slackbot messages.models as well. And that will satisfy the other errors on the page. And also when we added web configuration manager, it did a reference of system web configuration for us as well. So these are the references we're using so far. So it's saying when this starts up, it's going to send a message, and the username is going to look like Paul Seal. It's going to say hello from Paul and the icon URL. Let's just see if that works. And it's going to send it to our Slack hook. What have I done? Instead of copying the name from the app settings, I've just copied the value. So let me remove that and paste that in there. So it's this setting we want. So we do a build, rebuild. So this will then tell us if it's working or not. So the fact that we've just done a rebuild, now we can just go to the website. So if I reload this now, because I've done a rebuild, when I hit the site, it will start the site up again. So that will mean that the initialize method for our application component will get hit as well. So that should send us a Slack message. So in a minute, we should see a notification pop up, or I might have to just go to the window and have a look. So I've just had the notification on my phone. So let me just go into this. And so there we have it, 1:59 today, hello from Paul. And you can do all sorts of things on this. So you can change the icon URL. So I've got it for a picture of me, but you can do it as an icon emoji. And in this library, you can do things like emoji, and then there's loads of, we could do it as from an alien, things like that. But there's one that I was going to use for this already anyway, and it's a new one that got added. So you can use any emoji, you just have to do it like this, like you would type it out in Slack. So this is robot face, and what we want to do is, I'll call it website robot, and we don't need any text. And with this library as well, you can add attachments as well to it. So when I say attachments, I mean like these are attachments. So in theory, we could send a message that has our robot face, website robot, and it's just going to tell us that the website, clean blog, has started. So if we do a comma here and do attachments equals new list of attachments, and then inside this we can do a new attachment, and inside the attachment we can say, now you've got to provide a fallback message. So clean blog website started, and the color you can choose for green is good for some reason. I think you might be able to add a hex color value in there as well, but it recognizes green. And then you can add some fields. So a field is these things here. This is a field, and you can make them short fields so they can be side by side and things like that. So with this field, what I'm going to do is do a new list of fields. I'm just going to add one field, and that field is going to be a new field, and the value is going to be clean blog website started. So give that a build. So that's what it looks like. And then if we just hit this page again, now this one you probably would want to turn off because it's going to be quite annoying whilst you're in development. This sort of thing would be good to have on when your site is live. So I've just had my notification again. So here we go, website robot, clean blog website started. So that's handy and useful for us. So you might see that as a warning or something, to say, oh, your site started. And if you're seeing that quite often, then maybe your site isn't stable, shouldn't keep restarting. So that was the first part of this episode. And then the other part of this episode is to actually notify you of unhandled exceptions. Before we do move on, what's best to do here as well is to just wrap this in a try catch, because when the site's initializing, we don't want it to fall over just because it wasn't able to send this Slack message. So if we just do a try catch, we're not concerned about, we don't want the site to break if it fails. So what we'll just do is we'll just log the error. So we'll just cut this, paste it up in this try, and then catch the general exception. Why doesn't it like import system exception? Yeah. And in here we'll use the current from the composer in umbraco.web.composing logger error. Now you're not supposed to use current, but I can't think of a way to pass this into here, so I'm not going to try and do that. I'm just going to use it on current. It's available to be used, and you just give the class in here, so it's the type of this class, and we're just going to put in the exception, and we're just going to say that unable to send Slack message to notify site starting up. So at least we have something there. Now, also, before we move on, I was under the impression that when the site stops, this will run as well. And I don't think it does. So maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I've got a feeling that it doesn't. But maybe maybe there's an attribute. I can't remember. There could be an attribute that you have to put on that. I'll ask someone. Maybe I'll ask Stefan about that one. But it would be handy to know to also send a message when the site terminates as well. Right, that's our application composer. So then let's think about general unhandled errors. We want to handle that using ASP.NET, typical on application error. So what we can do is in the core project again, if we go into I'll just delete this. So if we create ourselves a folder, new folder called application, and in that folder, if we create ourselves a class and call it custom global, because basically we're writing the global ASAX file contents in here. So custom global, and we've got our namespace, and this is going to inherit. So it's going to be a public class. It's going to inherit from Umbraco application. In umbraco.web. And then what we'll do is we'll just get the request. So var, oh, why does it keep doing that? Var request equals http context dot current dot request. So we'll get the current request. Oh, right, no, I need to put this in an override, sorry. Public, protected override, void. So it's overriding the method application on application error. Object sender event args e. So we'll put this request in here. So we're going to use that request to get the URL, and then we also want to capture the last error. So the way we do that is http context.getLastError, current.server.getLastError. So now we have the last error and we've got the request. So we can, in here, we'll do our try. And instead of throwing that or anything, we're just going to swallow that. We're going to log it. Current in Umbraco core.composing. So again, that just added the using up there. Current.logger.error, and then we can do type of. Type of. There we go, and this will be custom global. We're giving it the exception, and we're just going to say in here unable to send Slack message to notify unhandled exception. And now this will get logged anyway, I believe. The actual error will, so, but the other error that we came into here with. But what we were doing here is we're just saying if the Slack message bit fails, we'll just log that. So a bit like we did on the last one, we can probably just copy this code anyway. So if we just copy this bit that sends the message using that client and we'll import the types for the code. You might not be able to import the types, so just make sure you've got all of these usings. So we have our website robot, and we've got our icon emoji, and we're going to add a list of attachments. So the attachments that we want are, so we've got the fallback, and so what we want to say is, well, really it's the error message can show in the fallback. So we're going to put in the error message. We're going to put in the color as danger, so that will show as red. And the fields, we can add a few fields on here now then. So we can say, we can add one, we can use an emoji. So we can do emoji dot error, or I think it's warning, that will do. And then we can just put error. That needs to be the title, not the value. And put a comma in there and then do value equals, and then we'll put in the error dot message. So we've got the message through, and what we can do is we can just add another field under it. And the next field is going to be the stack trace. We'll do error.stacktrace, and the next field after that we'll get the request URL. So we'll do URL. So where we get the URL, we'll do that just above the client here. So we'll do var URL equals request, lowercase request dot URL dot get left part URI partial dot authority. So that would get us the left part of it, so basically the domain, and then we want the URL, so we'll do request.url. So we have our URL, so we can pass that in now to the message, so that should be useful for us. So when this message comes through, it's going to come through as red. It's going to be from the website robot, and it's going to say there's been an error, this is the message, this is the stack trace, and this is the URL. So let's rebuild this, and then it's going to send that message. So we've rebuilt that. One other thing we need to do before we can do this is just update the global ASAX file. So if we go into global ASAX, and in here change the namespace to be cleanblog.core.application.custom global, and just build that. So now our error handling for that sort of thing is going to come from there. So if we reload the page, we'll find that just reloading the page should be fine. There should be no errors, and then we'll force the site to have an error, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So I've just got my notification to say that the website started, clean blog website started. And then if we just do something like this, where we put in some strange characters, it will throw an error. A potentially dangerous request path was detected. And then if we go into Slack, we can see here error. A potentially dangerous request path value was detected from the client. It's also passed in the stack trace for us as well, and it's given us the URL, so we can investigate that. So I think it's quite handy to be able to see that sort of thing. You could take it further and have a look if there's any inner exceptions and add those as well. But it's just something to have running in your site. I think it's quite cool to integrate in with Slack, and it shows you how easy it is to integrate in, especially if you're using a library like that one that I made that's available on NuGet. You can easily just start sending messages, customize how they look and everything like that. You can do all sorts with it. And the main thing is you can be kept up to date with things that's happening on your site. So that's all for this episode. If you like it, please click on like, subscribe to my channel. If you are feeling generous and you want to say thanks by buying me a coffee, then you can go to codeshare.co.uk/coffee. But as always, there's no obligation. You can just watch all these videos for free. They're all free on YouTube anyway. Thanks to anyone who has bought me a coffee. I've appreciated that. And I'll see you on the next episode where we carry on further with this website and doing new things. And I hope you're enjoying it. And I really enjoy it if you leave a comment. Let me know how you're getting on through the video series, and any feedback or any questions that you've got. All right, thanks for watching. See you on the next episode. Bye.